Hello and welcome to your WION live broadcast from London. I'm Oliver Regan and these are the headlines. A serving London police officer pleads guilty to 24 counts of rape. The Metropolitan Police apologises for failing to spot the pattern of abuse earlier. The Prime Minister's spokesperson calls the case appalling. A face-off between Scotland and the UK government. Westminster to block a Scottish bill that makes it easier for people to change their legal gender. It's the first time a Scottish bill is being blocked for affecting UK-wide law. British Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt stresses on pulling down inflation to help wages go further. Data showed the pace of pay growth rose in the 3 months to November 2022. China's population shrank last year for the first time in more than 6 decades, as the world's most populous country faces a looming demographic crisis. And 35-year-old Andy Murray rolls back the years to stun world number 14 Matteo Berrettini in a marathon 5-set thriller to reach the second round of the Australian Open. News of a serial rapist in the London Metropolitan Police ranks. A serving police officer has admitted to a series of crimes against women, including 24 counts of rape over an 18-year period. Arrested Metropolitan Police Officer David Carrick pleaded guilty to 49 rape-related offences across 2 decades. He was arrested in October 2021. On Monday, Carrick admitted to rape and indecent assault of a 40-year-old woman in 2003. Besides 43 other counts of crimes against women between March 2004 and September 2020, he said he repeatedly used his role as a police officer to put fear into women. A senior officer said Carrick's crimes were unprecedented in policing. Calls for reforms in London's Metropolitan Police are now in focus again. The Met says it's now investigating about 1,000 sexual and domestic abuse claims involving about 800 of its officers. Its police commissioner announced that all the 45,000 officers and staff would be rechecked for past offences. The crime has further raised questions on the efficiency of the Met Police after it was hit by a series of scandals in the last year. The recent scandals have shed light on what the UK police watchdog called a culture of misogyny and racism in London's police service. The Metropolitan Police has issued an apology on behalf of Carrick, said his pattern of abuse should have been spotted by the department. It also issued an apology to the victims.
This is devastating. It's devastating for the victims that have had to go through pain and suffering at the hands of a serving police officer. It is devastating to the trust and confidence that we are working so hard to earn from women and girls across London. It's devastating to colleagues of David Carrick, but we know this is a day that policing has definitely taken a step.
British Home Secretary Suella Braverman said standards and culture in British policing needs to change. She also said the event was a sobering day for the Metropolitan Police Service.
Well, it's clear that today is a sobering day for the Metropolitan Police Service and indeed for the whole policing family throughout the country. This appalling incident represents a breach of trust. It will affect people's confidence in the police, and it's clear that standards and culture need to change in policing.
A spokesperson of the UK Prime Minister called the case appalling. An independent review of London's Metropolitan Police said last year that radical reform was needed in relation to how the police deals with misconduct allegations faced by hundreds of its staff and officers. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Alex Isaac joins us live from London. Alex, a truly shocking case this. Just bring us the latest, and how is the Metropolitan Police seeking to deal with this situation?
It is absolutely shocking, and as you rightly said there's been a few cases this past year, but last year, that we've seen this toxic masculinity, really, as it is contained in the Metropolitan Police. We have the group WhatsApp chats which showed racist and misogynistic behaviour to 2 dead women. We also had the Sarah Everard case, and obviously this now with David Carrick, and he admitted to those appalling crimes. And the Metropolitan Police did say last year in a report that came out that the vetting process is where they have fallen down, that they're allowing people to come into the police force that aren't quite fit for the job itself. People do join, some people, not all people of course, some men do join the police force to show off and to get control and be controlling behaviours. So they'll join it, and then they will try and use that coercive behaviour in the real world. Now the police, Metropolitan Police, are looking into over 1,600 cases within its own force of those that have been complained about. But the process within the Metropolitan Police, and actually in all other forces, is quite disparate. When someone complains about a police officer, then it doesn't necessarily go into a huge pile so that they can look back and see how many complaints have been withheld. And when a police officer changes rank in departments, that also doesn't go with them. So there is a real need for a complete change in the way that this system works. But it isn't just in the police force. Metropolitan Police have obviously had a hard time, and people are concerned that whether or not that they can trust the Metropolitan Police if they see them out on the streets. There is actually a real problem within the UK and other workforces as well. This kind of behaviour, unfortunately, is quite rife.
Alex Isaac, many thanks for your insight there. A mega face-off brews between England and Scotland over powers to pass a piece of legislation. The UK government has decided to block a bill passed by the Scottish Parliament that makes it easier for people to change their legal gender. The bill makes Scotland the first nation in the United Kingdom to support the self-identification process for changing gender. This includes removal of the need for a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria and lowering the age to 16 from 18. So, Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack said he is invoking Section 35 of the 1998 Scotland Act, which allows the UK government to restrict a bill becoming law if it deems it as an adverse effect on matters where the national government retains ultimate jurisdiction. According to some women's rights activists, the bill poses a threat to the safety of women and girls, as it makes it easier for predatory men to access single-sex spaces, such as bathrooms. However, the supporters of the bill say the changes benefit transgender people and pose no threat to women's rights. Well, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has warned the UK government against blocking the gender legislation. She also accused ministers of using trans people as a political weapon. She also said she would encourage the UK government to do the same in other areas. Earlier, the UK Supreme Court declared that Scotland's authority to organise a second referendum on independence without UK government's approval is not able to happen.
Is continued.
Well, joining us now for more on this story is Andrew Whitehead, historian, author and former BBC journalist, joining us live from London. Andrew, many thanks for your time this morning. This is developing into a bit of a constitutional crisis, but of course the ability for the UK government to step in this manner has always been there, hasn't it?
Well, it has been there, and when the Scottish Parliament was set up, the devolved Parliament was set up in 1998, the legislation gave the UK-wide Parliament, Westminster London-based Parliament, the right to step in and overrule legislation introduced by the Scottish Parliament. But in the 24 years that the Scottish Parliament has been in existence, London has never exercised that right. So this is the first time it's doing this. And it's at a time when the Scottish Parliament, which is dominated by the Scottish National Party, a pro-independence party, is pushing for a second referendum, which it believes will lead to Scotland's complete independence from the rest of the United Kingdom.
And of course, this is widening, I suppose, that chasm between Scotland and England in terms of, in the rest of the UK, in terms of this, potential of a second referendum. This is going to give those people who want independence in Scotland yet another reason to push forward that case, despite the fact that the UK government is obviously pushing in the opposite direction.
Yes, I mean, there are two aspects to this. There is the aspect of rights for transgender people and how easy or difficult it should be to be reassigned a gender which fits with your perception of yourself and your lifestyle. And then there is the issue of whether Scotland has the right to have separate legislation in this area. That latter point is likely to end up with the British Supreme Court in London. But underlying this is the big drive by the Scottish National Party for a second referendum. But it's quite complex because the opinion polls suggest that while the SNP is the dominant party in Scotland, opinion there is very evenly split between those who want complete independence and those who want Scotland to remain part of the United Kingdom, but with significant devolved powers and its own devolved government. And it's very difficult to see how this will play out. But you're right, this is already highly politicized, and there is a constitutional crisis in the making.
Andrew Whitehead, historian, author, former BBC senior journalist, many thanks for your insights. European Parliament President Roberto Metsola has pledged for more actions against corruption in its ranks, amid investigations into an alleged cash for influence scheme in the institution. Addressing lawmakers in Strasbourg, Metsola laid out a series of planned reforms, including a new revolving door policy to prevent parliamentarians from moving swiftly into lobbying work after their elected term ends.
As a starting point, we will look at how we can implement a revolving door policy, at how we can ensure more transparency, of how we can improve accountability and checks of interest representatives, of how we can better control who has access to our premises. We will ask for more transparency also when it comes to those representing third countries and their interests, and from former members.
The Parliament has been shaken by the scandal that started a month ago and arrested one of Metzola's 14 vice presidents, who was caught up in a graft scandal linked to Qatar and Morocco. The investigation into the EU corruption scandal has further widened after Eva Kaili. Two more members of the European Parliament are also in the probe net. So that's Italian MEP Andrea Cozzolino and Belgian MEP Mark Tarabella. The EU Parliament has now started a month-long procedure of waiving immunity procedures against both the members. Cozzolino and Tarabella may see their protective parliamentary immunity lifted at the request of the Belgian prosecutors investigating the EU Cashgate scandal. Cozzolino stepped down as the chair of the Parliament's delegation working with the Maghreb region. Tarabella, who was previously the vice chair of the delegation responsible for the Arab-Provincial relations, including Qatar, has denied any wrongdoing. Both of them say that they're ready to waive their immunity and respond to questions by the Belgian authorities. Qatar and Morocco have also vehemently denied the allegations. However, the EU Assembly has frozen work on all Qatar-related files until the probe is completed. Meanwhile, an Italian court has ruled that the daughter of former MEP Pier Antonio Panzeri can be extradited to Belgium for charges in the alleged Qatar corruption investigation. Silvia Panzeri was arrested in Bergamo in northern Italy, along with her mother. They've been accused of corruption, money laundering and criminal association. The anti-government protests that have rocked Iran for many months now have found support in France. There was a huge protest held outside the European Parliament, and the iconic Eiffel Tower was lit up with the slogans defining the movement in Iran. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower was lit on Monday night with the slogan "Women, Life, Freedom," in solidarity with protesters and women of Iran who were fighting the regime for more rights. The display also beamed the message "Stop executions in Iran." Both messages paid tribute to Mahsa Amini, whose death in custody of the Iran's moral police triggered massive protests. Meanwhile, massive protests were held outside the EU Parliament in the eastern French city of Strasbourg, demanding that Iran's Revolutionary Guards be listed as a terrorist group. Around 12,000 protesters, according to police estimates, marched to the EU Parliament, organised by Iranians in Europe. The demonstration was held on the 44th anniversary of the day when Iran's last Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, left the nation. The protests come at a time European Parliament's holding its plenary season. This week, the lawmakers are due to debate the EU's response to the protests and executions in the Islamic Republic. A non-binding resolution is to be voted on Thursday. Protesters see this as a chance to put the Revolutionary Guard on the EU's terror list. Activists have accused the Revolutionary Guards of playing a key role in brutal crackdowns on anti-government protests. Rights groups say hundreds of protesters have died. 4 protesters have been executed by the Iranian regime. China's economy slowed sharply in 2022, with GDP growth registering one of its worst performances in nearly half a century, pressurising policymakers to provide more stimulus this year. Well, GDP growth for 2022 at 3% is significantly below the government's target of around 5.5%, and a sharp slowdown from 2021's 8.4% growth. That marks its worst annual performance since 1976, excluding the 2.2% growth that followed the initial COVID hit in 2020. For the December quarter, GDP rose 2.9%, slowing from 3.9% in the quarter before. China's zero-COVID policy and a severe property market downturn in 2022 hurt economic activity. Beijing abruptly lifted all restrictions in early December, leading to a surge in infections, which is expected to hamper growth in the near term. Well, staying with China, and for the first time in 6 decades, China's population recorded a fall. This is a historic change as it will mark the start of a decline, which will have a huge impact on both the Chinese and the global economy. Well, this is the worst drop since 1961, which was also the last year of China's Great Famine. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, China's population declined by roughly 850,000. At the end of 2022. According to UN experts, China's population will shrink by 109 million by 2050, which is more than triple the decline of their previous forecast in 2019. This has also caused domestic demographers to lament that China will get old before it gets rich, which will slow down the economy as revenues drop, and government debt increases due to soaring health and welfare costs. According to experts, the country's shrinking labour force and downturn in manufacturing heft would further aggravate high prices and high inflation in the US and Europe. According to the head of the National Statistics Bureau, people should not worry about the decline in population, as overall labour supply still exceeds demand. According to records, last year's China's birth rate was just 6.77 births per 1,000 people. This is a fall from a rate of 7.52 in 2021. The number of Chinese women of childbearing age has also fallen by about 4 million. The death rate is 7.37 deaths per 1,000.
年末，全国人口，包括我们31个省、自治区、直辖市和现役军人的人口，这个不包括居住在31个省、自治区、直辖市的港澳台居民和外籍人员。
Well, much of the demographic fall is the result of China's one-child policy, which was in force from 1980 to 2015. Now, years after the one-child policy has been changed, the country is still looking at ways to encourage childbirth with incentives. In Shenzhen, all couples having a third child or more will be eligible for a cash allowance of $2,800 to be handed over when the child turns 3. The incentive for having the first child is $1,100 and for the second is $1,600. In Jinan, mothers who give birth to a second or third child will receive a childcare subsidy of about $90 each month until the child turns 3. Mothers will also be entitled to 158 days of maternity leave for each child, and fathers will receive at least 15. The government also announced policies on housing, healthcare and education for families with more than one child. In the city of Yichang in central Hubei province, eligible families with 2 or more children will receive a childcare subsidy of $74 per month. This will also be per child until the age of 3. In July 2021, a city in the Sichuan province became the first to offer subsidies to families for raising more children. Now, this development in China lends weight to predictions that India will become the world's most populous nation this year. According to Google Trends, there's a 15% year-on-year increase in searches for baby bottles in 2022, while searches for cribs rose almost 5-fold. In 2022, Taylor Swift broke records, created history and travelled to more creative places than ever before. But in 2023, the singer's rising above the music and songwriting, all thanks to her fans. Swifties and anyone who is single will have a chance to visit a Swift-themed breakup bar this Valentine's Day in Chicago. The time-limited pop-up venue will be called Bad Blood, in homage to Swift's song from her 2014 album 1989. Bad Blood will be open from January 27th to February 26th, and Swifties hoping to drown their sorrows will have to pay $20 for the experience, which includes a welcome beverage. Located at Chicago's Electric Garden, the event will also feature tarot card readers and a spinning wheel of cocktails. If you like karaoke and want to perform all your favourite love songs with your BFFs, you can visit the karaoke section for Insta-worthy snaps, and you can head over to Taylor-themed Deco Studios. So if you don't have a partner this Valentine's Day, worry not. You have a bunch of Swifties who are willing to celebrate with you in the Bad Blood Bar. Well, that's all from your WION Live broadcast from London. I've been Oliver Regan. See you at the same time tomorrow.
Officials, right? Arab?